Every year, on one night in October, we step into shadows. We carve faces into pumpkins, dress as monsters, and light candles against the dark. But behind the costumes and candy lies an older story, a story of fire, fear, and the dead. Long before it was called Halloween, it was something far darker. Our journey begins more than 2,000 years ago, with the Celts of ancient Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. For them, the year was divided into two halves, the light and the dark. The end of October marked a threshold. Samhain, the death of summer and the birth of winter. Samhain was not just a date on a calendar. It was a terrifying boundary. The harvest was gathered, the livestock driven in. But as the sun sank lower and the nights grew colder, survival was no longer certain. In this liminal time, they believed the barrier between worlds grew thin. The living could see the dead, and the dead could walk among the living. Winter was not just cold. It was a season of death. Hunger, illness, and darkness crept into every home. And with the long nights came stories of restless souls, wandering spirits, and unseen dangers lurking in the black. To protect themselves, the Celts lit enormous bonfires, believing fire could cleanse and shield. They offered sacrifices, crops, animals, and perhaps, though we cannot know for certain, even human lives. One tale tells of a farmer in Ulster who, seeing the glow of a fire across the hill, claimed he watched a shadowed figure dragging a headless body through the mist, a warning that the spirits were restless. On this night, families gathered close, praying their offerings would be enough to keep the spirits from their door. They feared the puka, a shape-shifting trickster spirit that led travelers astray and spoiled the harvest. They whispered of the Dullahan, the headless rider whose eyes glowed like coals as he carried his own skull. In one story from Kerry, a woman claimed to hear a banshee's wail outside her home. The next morning, a distant cousin was found dead. The sound had been a warning of passing between worlds. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, could be a wandering soul, or something worse. On Samhain, the world was never empty. It was crowded with the unseen. During Samhain, rituals bound entire communities together. Druids, the Celtic priests, kindled sacred fires. Families gathered, tossing bones of slaughtered cattle into the flames, a practice remembered in the word bonfire, literally bone fire. People wore disguises, hides, antlers, masks, to confuse spirits that might hunt them in the night. Others carved grotesque faces into turnips, placing candles inside to ward off evil. These were the first jack-o'-lanterns. A story survives of a child who, wearing a carved turnip mask, wandered into a misty forest and returned claiming she had met a spirit that pointed toward the safety of her home, a small warning from the dead. Samhain was not only about fear, it was about fate. Girls peeled apples, casting the skins over their shoulders to spell the initials of their true love. Nuts were tossed into the fire to see if lovers would burn together or crack apart. One legend tells of a man called Stingy Jack, a trickster, a drunk, a gambler. Jack trapped the devil himself with a cross, forcing him to promise never to claim his soul. But when Jack died, heaven refused him, and hell had sworn never to take him. Cursed to wander the earth for eternity, Jack carried only a burning coal inside a carved turnip to light his path. They called him Jack of the Lantern, and over centuries, his story would linger in every flickering face carved into the night. As the final crops withered in the fields and the winds howled through bare branches, entire tribes stood in the glow of fire. Faces flickered in shadow, masks turned human into beast. The line between man, spirit, and monster blurred. For the Celts, Samhain was more than a festival. It was survival, a night of offerings, disguises, and fire to endure the coming winter. But this ancient night of spirits and shadows would soon face a powerful rival, and the church would stop at nothing to claim it. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, but in the shadows of Europe, Samhain endured. Then came the church. Determined to spread its faith, Christianity could not ignore the old festivals. They were too deeply woven into the lives of the people, too powerful to erase. So the church did what it often did best. It transformed them. In the 7th century, Pope Boniface attempted to replace Samhain with a holy day, a day to honor the saints and martyrs of the Christian world. All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Day, and the night before became All Hallows' Eve. But the fires still burned. The masks were still worn. The spirits of the dead were not so easily dismissed. And so, the old ways merged with the new, creating a night both holy and haunted. To the church, what had once been ritual was now sin. The spirits of Samhain became demons, the druids became sorcerers, and the women who still practiced the old ways were branded witches. Sermons described All Hallows' Eve as a night when hell's gates opened wide, when spirits, demons, and witches moved freely. One 16th century Scottish record tells of a village where farmers claimed to see a black cloaked figure hovering over the harvest, and within days, several cattle were found dead, its cause attributed to witchcraft performed on Halloween night. Medieval chronicles describe fearful nights at the end of October. Villagers swore that witches flew across the skies, carrying out dark bargains. Cats with eyes like embers prowled doorways, believed to be familiars of the damned. In England, a woman named Agnes was accused of meeting the devil in a field at midnight on All Hallows' Eve. Her trial record survives. Neighbors swore they saw her disappear into mist, only to return hours later, claiming the spirits had shown her visions of death. Agnes was executed, her story a warning to others. Whether true or imagined, the fear was real, and belief has power. Yet even in fear, tradition persisted. In parts of Britain and Ireland, the poor would knock on doors on All Hallows' Eve, offering prayers for the dead in exchange for food, a practice called souling. Children disguised themselves in rags and masks, begging for cakes or coins, echoing the disguises once worn to ward off spirits. The ancient bargain continued. Give to the visitor at your door, and the spirits will pass you by. All across the Isles, Halloween became a tapestry of saints and spirits, of angels and demons, of prayers and curses. In Ireland, farmers left offerings for the puka to protect their fields. In Scotland, villagers lit torches to keep fairies and phantoms from entering homes. In Wales, stories survived of spirits knocking at windows, their shadows warning of death. Even as the church renamed the night, the old fears remained. The dead still walked, the spirits still whispered, and the people still believed. By the Middle Ages, Samhain was no longer called by its name. It had been absorbed, reshaped, and renamed. But listen closely, and beneath the hymns of the church you can still hear it. The beating heart of an older, darker night. A night of masks and fire. A night of witches and spirits. And though centuries passed, the darkness of Halloween had only deepened. In the 19th century, waves of Irish and Scottish immigrants crossed the Atlantic, carrying with them their customs, their fears, and their festivals. Among them was Samhain, the dark festival of fire, masks, and spirits. They arrived in America, a land of opportunity and superstition. But the traditions they carried were misunderstood, reshaped, and blended into the new world. Halloween, as the old ways were called, was reborn. The turnips of Ireland were not abundant in America, but pumpkins were. Their bright orange flesh and hollow cavities became perfect vessels for the lanterns that once warded off spirits. One tale tells of a boy in rural Pennsylvania carving his first pumpkin lantern. He lit it and left it by the doorstep, believing it would guide lost souls away from the house. By morning, his neighbor claimed she saw a shadowy figure pass through the yard and vanish into the night, a reminder that the veil between worlds still thinned. Halloween in America was not just about lights and treats. The night became a time of pranks, mischief, and even vandalism. Cornstalks burned, windows broken, and towns braced themselves against the chaos. In the 1920s, newspapers reported entire streets covered in pies, flour, and uprooted fences, young revelers following ancient traditions of disorder, echoing the chaotic spirits of Samhain, long forgotten by their modern descendants. By the early 20th century, Halloween began to change. Postcards, costumes, and candy spread its popularity. Companies saw profit in the old festival. Children's parties replaced fires in the fields, but echoes of the past remained. Costumes that once warded off spirits became playful disguises. Jack-o'-lanterns became decorative, still flickering, still casting shadows, still reminding us of Stingy Jack and the wandering dead. Hollywood embraced Halloween. Horror films, ghost stories, and magazine tales of poisoned candy shaped the modern imagination. In the 1970s, reports of tampered treats terrified parents. Though mostly myth, they echoed the ancient fear of unseen dangers lurking in the night. From Ireland to America, the fear that the dead and the dark were near had never fully left. Over time, Halloween became a night for communities rather than communities of fire and fear. Parades, trick-or-treating, and haunted houses replaced the rituals and sacrifices. Yet, if you look closely, the old elements remain. Masks to hide us from spirits, lanterns to guide us, mischief to honor the chaos that once ruled the night. Halloween is, at its heart, still a night when the living and the dead share the same world. The veil thins, even in modern streets. Though Halloween is most celebrated in America, its echoes are found worldwide. In Mexico, Dia de los Muertos honors the dead with altars, candles, and offerings, a direct spiritual descendant of Samhain. Families leave sugar skulls and favorite foods of their ancestors, believing the veil between worlds opens for them to return. In Japan, Halloween has been embraced as a celebration of costumes and spectacle, but some shrines still honor spirits and the unknown, blending the ancient and modern. Even today, Halloween carries unease. Children whisper about monsters, adults tell ghost stories, and horror films dominate the season. The fear is not accidental. Our ancestors once faced the unknown every year at this time. The dead could walk, spirits could intervene, and we are wired to remember it. Fear is survival. Modern science tells us that fear can be exhilarating. The thrill of uncertainty, the rush of adrenaline, the shared experience of facing darkness together. These are echoes of what our ancestors felt at Samhain. We dress as monsters not to become them, but to confront them safely. We light jack-o'-lanterns not just for decoration, but as symbols of protection, of fire against the unknown. Halloween reflects our relationship with life and death, chaos and order, the seen and unseen. For one night, humans step into darkness and play, explore, and even laugh at what once terrified them. It is perhaps humanity's oldest ritual of reconciliation, a night when fear becomes fun, the unknown becomes spectacle, and the dead return to walk among us for just a few hours. From ancient Celtic fires to suburban streets of America, the festival has endured. Masks, lanterns, fire, and mischief, symbols of a night when the veil thins, remain with us. Halloween is not just a holiday, it is an echo of our ancestors' fear, hope, and survival. A reminder that even in modern times, the darkness is never far away, and every October 31st we remember, we celebrate, and we step into the shadows. Look closely at the flickering jack-o'-lanterns. Watch the shadows stretch across the empty streets,